Always doing something funny. Welcome to Coffee Breaks Thursdays, you guys. It's me, Jason Zalakis. It's Coffee Breaks Thursdays with Jason Zalakis. Sometimes I forget to put my name when I'm entering the show. I just say Coffee Breaks Thursdays. It's kind of a long name, but I did it so you would remember the day and the times, and my name. I mean, ultimately. I wanted you to know it was on Thursdays, and I wanted you to ultimately know that Jason Zalakis is the guy who does this. So anyway, Coffee Breaks Thursdays with Jason Zalakis. Here I am. You may notice this week. Let's have some coffee first. There we go. You may notice this week we are rocking it with a new background. So it was Father's Day, and shout out to my family, my wife and kids, who got me some things for the show for Father's Day. We got a microphone, but it unfortunately wasn't compatible. So next time probably we'll have a microphone, but we got some new backdrops, and we're going to be trying them out. And I just opened this one out of the bag, and that's why you can see the lines on the backdrop back there. And, one of the things I always ask actors about is their backdrops. And it's something that I think is really interesting is how much time people spend picking out colors or choosing, their backdrop. And I've heard everything on this show from, I just walked over to the garment district, to I ordered it on Amazon, to I spent, lots of time trying to match it to my eye color. Like, we've heard lots of stuff on this show, but I got a variety of backgrounds. And because, I couldn't decide. And I decided that they look different for depending on what you're auditioning for. And I thought this one looked more commercial. So for the show, I decided today we would try it out. Anyway, so hey, welcome. Glad you guys are here. This week was a pretty busy week. And, I wouldn't even say I'm doing a ton of right now. I'm really not even auditioning. Like, I've sort of stepped back because everything is going, there's a lot going on. And, so one of the things that was going on was my daughter graduated from high school. And I talked about that a little bit last week on the show. But my daughter graduated with expertise. And which is, to me, and she got her expertise in communications and journalism, and I'm really, really excited about that. And we had to go to some awards ceremonies, and I had to. I never should say the term had to, but we got to go to these award ceremonies for my daughter, and I told my parents about them. I said to my parents, I said, we went to these, and my dad said, wow, Jay, we never went to those, award ceremonies or anything. And I said, well, surely you went with my sister. And he said, because, me, right? It wasn't going to be with me, dude. I barely graduated, and the whole story. And we don't know the whole story, but, anyway, I'm that kid. Jason, if you only applied yourself, I'm that kid, right? And if you applied yourself to schoolwork the way you do to your toys, like, and you guys know I end up owning a toy business and becoming, and making a bunch of money in toys. But my parents were like, if you only applied yourself. So anyway, my daughter applied herself. And so I said to my dad, I said, well, certainly you went with my sister to those award ceremonies. And he goes, no, we didn't. We never went to those. Your sister didn't get any awards, like, it wasn't that my parents were bad parents. They didn't, we never went to those because, we were too busy watching TV, but, my sister and I never qualified for those. And so shout out to me for doing a better job than my parents. Word. Man, so my kid got awards and stuff. So I did a better job than my parents on that, and I just wanted to shout out that, and not me. Shout out to my wife, man. She's the one who probably pulled that off. And don't forget, guys, we got Nevin Millan. I haven't mentioned it yet, but I'm really excited about Nevin Millan coming up. He's coming on in about 11 minutes, 10 minutes maybe. But don't forget. Don't forget. Why I always say don't forget? I haven't told you anything yet. The guests, man. The guests on the show, they're fire. And this guy, I met him for a brief moment, and I was like, this guy, we have to talk. We have to hang out. Like, this guy and me, I can't wait to bring him on. You're going to be way, way excited. My mom, we did our best, Jay. We still love you, she says. I love how my mom says, still love you. Like, how you've seen the show, Mom. It's a roast. Anyway, my parents are coming in tomorrow, so there's all that stress going on about that. They're coming here to celebrate the graduation for my daughter and stuff. And, there's not really a whole lot of stress, but, anyway, anytime my mother's around, it's a little stressful because, they're my parents. Anyway, here, moving on. We went to wine tasting this week, and I'm not a wine guy. I don't drink wine. In fact, I don't drink right now. I'm on a not drink thing. Haven't drank in a while. But we go wine tasting, and at like the third winery we go to, I'm an actor and I take pictures and I do stuff and I'm an Instagram dude and I take pictures. I'm a model. I take pictures. So we go to these like wine casks they have. And it's really, really cool because at Somerset Winery, they were doing the winery like back in the old way that they used to do it in like ancient Greece and stuff. They were doing them in clay pots. And I guess they're the only one to be doing that in this area. So it was really, really cool to see. But while we're there, I'm like, get a picture of me with these clay pots. And these people go, yo, that dude kind of looks like Ben Affleck. And then I start taking pictures and they start thinking it's actually Ben Affleck. They go like, so you could see in their eyes, they were like, yo, is that him? Like, and I'm like, oh my God. That was the closest that anyone was ever like actually thought I was him. And you guys know every day I hear it. So then I'm in the other part of Somerset Winery. I'm walking through and a guy yells, Ben Affleck. Hey, Ben. He goes, hey, Ben. And I look. And then the guy goes, I looked at shit. Like, dude, so I got punked. For looking when somebody called me Ben Affleck because I've been Ben Affleck so many times. So anyway, you guys, in case nobody told me today, I look like Ben Affleck. And so I told you too. The other thing is, man, I want to give some shout out just because, again, I said, I'm not really auditioning. I'm not doing stuff. Doesn't mean I'm not training. You're seeing me at training. I'm doing it. This week I was at Two Roads Theater with Alan Levin. Shout out to him. It's a good class. If you guys are beginning acting, I recommend that if you're looking for a beginning acting class. I recommend that if you're looking for to make friends in the area. If you really want to get down with a lot of people, there's like 23 people in the class. For me, that's too many. but if you want to get down with that, so, I go and train around different places. Anyway, let's talk about handsome history. I always get serious right there before handsome history. So that was my week. But one of the things that keeps coming up, right, is that the founding fathers, man, they didn't know. Okay, they had muskets. And I keep, I keep seeing memes, I keep seeing things about founding fathers and how they had muskets and how they didn't know about these things. But it got me, I did see one that was really, really crazy. And it was Archimedes. Archimedes was he made inventions. He was I don't know what you call a person who makes an invention. I guess he was an architect. He was an inventor. Oh my God. He was an inventor. He was a Greek inventor. And he made a bunch of stuff. And whether or not these really existed are still, nobody really knows whether or not these weapons really existed. So they're all kind of hearsay. Now, I saw it presented as fact, like, yo, dude did this. But then when I went and checked it out and tried to find out more about it, I don't want to call myself a researcher for going on Google, but I found out that it may or may not have actually been accurate. But what he did was he had this death ray. And he basically figured out that you could take, allegedly, he figured out that you could take mirrors and you could pinpoint the sun using mirrors. And he could fire the sun's pinpointed beam and burn approaching ships during the siege of Syracuse, and which I didn't know Syracuse was in ancient Greece. So obviously New York would be the Syracuse in New York would probably be named for that. But anyway, so he would burn the approaching ships allegedly. Now, when they tried it on MythBusters a couple of times, and it works, but it only works if the ships hold absolutely still, which is like impossible on the waves. And so realistically, Archimedes' death ray probably didn't work, but it's a pretty cool idea. And, I saw it on G.I. Joe once where they tried to harness the weather by absorbing it. And I don't know if you've ever seen that one, but it's really good. The one where G.I. Cobra tries to dominate the weather is one of the best G.I. Joes. Anyway, it's probably based off that Archimedes thing. The other thing that he mentioned, that he had, forgive me, the other thing that he had was a steam cannon. And they thought he fired a ball, but he generated basically enough pressure with the steam. And they originally thought they didn't have the technology to do it. One of the things we keep finding out in history is we're always like, ancient man was so dumb. But one thing we keep figuring out is that they weren't as dumb. They're like, oh, well, they had tools. Oh, we didn't have any idea they were smart. We keep finding out that they were. So they figured out that it's potentially that Archimedes did have this, but it's a steam cannon, and essentially it generated heat or it didn't generate heat, but they used a flame, and it would generate heat, creating steam inside the cannon, which would build and fire out a giant ball, which is pretty cool. But he did have, and they actually built this, and this one is pretty cool. He had, it's called the Claw of Archimedes, and the Claw of Archimedes was basically a giant crane with a hook on it, like one of those, like, you know, where they grab the alien in Toy Story, and it's like, hey, yo, you're my master. Archimedes was mastering some ships out there, man. He had a claw that would go down and pick up the ship and dump them over, you know, and then and shake it basically until the ship, it was a grappling hook on a crane essentially. And it would hook these wooden ships and take them up out of the water and just like Jake, you know, like Superman dumping a guy's pockets out. You know, like just until they all fell out. I don't know what happens to them once they go in the water. And I imagine they're not far from shore. I don't know how effective that weapon is, other than it wrecked a bunch of ships. I don't really know. Anyway, you guys, we're going to cut it there. Had some history today. We got Nevin Millan coming up. Shout out to producer Warren Madden. Producer Warren Madden is in Florida, as you guys know. And he is trying to come out here to be with us. Can't bring Nevin on the show at this time. Maybe Nevin had to take a break. Maybe he couldn't take any more history. Can't bring Nevin on as your guest. We're going to hope that Nevin is able to friend request, or not friend request. Gosh, I do the show every week and it's live, and you think by now I would know. But if he's able to send a request to join, or however, we're going to try to work this out. We talked about this yesterday. We didn't. Oh, there. Send him. He's adding. Anyway, shout out to producer Warren Madden. Warren Madden's trying to move from Florida to Los Angeles, and it's not any difference in price. It's very difficult. So if you guys know a good place in LA and you want to shout it out to Warren Madden, producer, and he'd like to come on down, let's do that. Hey. There he is. Hey, man.
Hey.
How are you? Can you hear me? Some delay.
There's a delay. Is there a delay?
Are you using a Bluetooth headset? Because that will happen.
I am using a Bluetooth.
We get the delay sometimes if there's a Bluetooth headset. Can we try it without that? Oh, I love it.
That's so weird.
Did it? Okay. I think it might be fixed.
Is that better?
It is better. Are you okay? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Like Verizon. Okay. Is there a delay? Because I think you're frozen. Okay. You're going in and out. Your connection, maybe.
Good.
I don't think you can hear me. I think there's a delay. Are you hearing me?
I can hear you.
Okay, we're getting a cut in between. Let me try to take my headphones off and see if that works. Sometimes we get better audio. We're going to try it a couple times. If not, we'll have you rejoin. Remember I told you we have some issues sometimes on the show?
It's all good, yeah.
Okay, can you hear me now? Does that avoid the delay? It doesn't change. Okay, let's have you go off and come back on and see if we can get it to work.
Gotcha.
All right. So you guys know, we try to do a test. We try to do a test on Wednesdays to avoid these issues on the show. But this is the thing. We're going to start issuing the shows out on TikTok, I think. We're going to start cutting them into little pieces. And we're going to start trying to get them to work again that way. Because everybody, they're like, you got to, I don't know, basically everybody. The people I talk to tend to think it's better at smaller bites, or tend to think it's better at TikToks, or, and that seems to be the way that the market is going. So I'm sure at some point you'll see this show potentially edited into little bite-sized pieces. Anyway, we were talking about the difference in Florida, and there's not much of a difference as far as prices go. I'm finding out. Like, people go, well, how are you going to move from San Francisco to LA? The prices are the same. Well, Florida, I guess, is like breaking it for prices, which is something I just can't even believe. Like, to find out that anyone would want to pay to live in Florida is absolutely mind-blowing. Like, I didn't even know that someone would want. I just thought that's enough Florida jokes. Let's see if we can get Nevin back on, you guys. I gotta tell you, I really hope we make this work. You could see there he is. Okay. We're perfect now. I can hear you great.
Okay, I can hear you great too. Can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
We're good to go. Okay. So, hey, thank you for taking the time to be with us today, man. I know you're a popular dude. So let's start with Florida. You lived there. You went to University of Miami.
Yeah, go Canes.
Okay. Anyway, so I'm just I'm just teasing. So you have a bachelor's and two masters in engineering.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
we talked about this a little bit. At some point in your life, you go, forget money. I want to be an actor. So tell us about that. Why the change?
yeah. So I mean, it's one of those things where I just kind of was. I feel like I was just a little lost in college. I just kept going to school, just kept doing it, and I was good at it. I like learning. I'm a sponge for knowledge, and I knew in my heart, now looking back on it, that I wanted to go into the creative fields. I was a musician from a young age. I started with violin, then piano, then I picked up guitar and then drums, and I was in rock bands in high school and in college. And that creative calling was always there. And then even after I graduated college and I went to grad school, I was doing a simultaneous MBA and then master's in industrial engineering. And then I was also doing an internship at Sony for Sony Electronics in Miami. And it was crazy. I mean, I was so busy. It was nuts. But I was still going to like auditions on lunch breaks and calling in sick to work to go and, do a gig, and I'm like, finally, eventually it just kind of was like, what am I doing? I feel like I'm Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde with it. It was making me crazy. Like felt like I was being stretched or pulled apart by two different realities. You see what I'm saying? And I'm like, I gotta do something about this. I gotta, I don't know, do something, because it was making me nuts. And eventually I got an offer to do a couple of, commercial and modeling gigs in Paris. And I was like, you know what? It's always been a dream for me to live in Paris. So I was like, that was the universe being like, here you go. We'll make the decision for you since you're not doing it. And I just was like, I quit. Bye. I'm leaving.
So okay, so how much in acting is something I like to ask this question. How much in acting is it the universe, man? And by that I mean things you can't control.
Yeah, big
But
time. I mean, I think that energetically you have to be open to it too. You know what I mean? There's you can build walls up around you. I mean, there's like an example. There's an actress I know, and she's like brilliant. We went to acting school together, and we were acting partners in multiple scenes. And she, once everyone graduated, we were all out there auditioning, and she just, I was like, well, you have an audition. What's going on? You do this? She's like, I'm just not ready. I feel like I'm not ready. And she was blocking herself from doing it. Turns out she figured out she wanted to be a director. That's cool. She just did not want to be on camera or on stage or whatever. She wanted to be the one calling the shots. And that's great that she discovered that. But she put up those energetic blocks to the acting. Whereas there's some of us that are putting it out there. Our heart is sending that beacon out that, hey, I want this, I think that's what happened. And to me, I got to be honest, I hadn't even considered that it was possible for me to really pursue an acting career. I got to be honest about that.
right.
At that stage, I loved movies. I loved theater. I loved actors. I loved storytelling. I didn't even think it was possible for me to even get that. I revered it so much.
I got to tell you, the same way. I would watch movies and be like, I can't do that, or that's so out of my league or out beyond me.
Right.
And when I got in through modeling, that's how I became an actor, was through modeling. And if somebody hadn't walked in and discovered me, I'd still be out there selling chocolate. Like, you know what I mean? Like, like the universe, had to come in. So you're saying you're putting out that energy and sort of drifted that way. Talk to me about the difference between Miami acting scene, and Los Angeles acting scene.
So Miami is very, modeling heavy, as many people know. It's the acting scene there is very South American, Hispanic projects. It's basically the hub for like entertainment when it comes to a lot of projects, Spanish speaking. I am not, I speak a little Spanish, but I'm not, fluent or anything. So, but I, I look like I can play the parts there. So there is, I booked a lot of work there, but it's a smaller market, and it was back then in the early 2000s, and it still is. Going to Paris was a whole different thing, and I was like, wow, this is it. I wasn't crazy about the fashion industry and doing all that work. To me, that was just a stopgap. That was a stepping stone to the next thing. And I was like, well, if I can scratch that itch and move to Paris and work there, why not move to LA? I kind of always thought I would end up in LA. I kind of always knew deep down inside. I was like, I'm going to end up in LA, I think, probably.
When you hear people now talk about, though, oh, Miami is blowing up, or they building a studio in Chicago, but you've lived in Paris, but like you said, you still figured you'd end up in LA.
Yeah.
I mean, so what do you think of when you hear about, like, I guess I always hear the new LA or the new, Hollywood, but
yeah.
So what do you think about that? You've lived in those places, so.
Yeah, I mean, LA's got this 100+ years of history here. That's not going to go away. I mean, this is going to be the anchor, I think. For, LA, New York. Chicago's really is big too. But LA, New York are the two main. I think it will be entertainment-wise. In the U.S. at least. London is huge, in Europe. You got those hubs coming up there. A lot of different projects. Game of Thrones shot all over. I mean, I'm part Croatian, and Croatia's film industry shot up from Game of Thrones. So, there's a lot of places popping up in Europe, which is pretty cool.
For 12 years, New Zealand was like the hub of movie making. And now it's like nothing, right?
Yeah. Well, Lord of the Rings, pumped that up, but they I think they've always got stuff going on. Yeah, they've got.
One of the things I read in your bio, you play a lot of different races. I know you're Croatian, but you play like Egyptian, and like you said, you play some Spanish characters. I even read you play some Russian guys.
Yeah.
Like, how do you think that works for you, being able to like, I can't really play much more than white dude. So, I mean, how do you think that works for you as far like, do you find that as being an advantage?
Yeah, for many years it was. I'm half Croatian, half Indian, so I'm as Indian as Kamala Harris, or as Indian as Ben Kingsley, or there's a lot of half Indians out there. So it gives this kind of, they call it ethnically ambiguous kind of look,
right.
Which in the early 2010s was kind of like a thing. It was kind of like, oh, we're looking for ethnically ambiguous people, and so you can kind of play this nondescript ethnic person. And I think the pendulum, I'm so glad I've been such a proponent for diversity for so many years, and the spotlight is kind of on that right now, which is a great thing. Now, this is a kind of a hot topic for me for the ethnic diversity component. I feel like the pendulum is starting to swing a little bit to a place where it's getting maybe too specific. They're like, we want someone that is, Mexican from this exact village, and they have to be from this village, and they have to be born on this patch of soil that is 2 inch by 2 inch, and if you weren't born on this patch of soil, then you can't be even audition for it. It's getting a little bit ridiculous. We're actors, we act. If you look like you can play the part, you should be able to have a shot at it. I think like this kind of like litmus testing, this DNA testing of actors to see if their blood matches that of the character. I think it's getting a little bit out of control. So I hopefully the pendulum will swing back, and we'll kind of like figure out as a society and as a business, where is that going to land? And hopefully it'll be pretty equitable, and people
right, like the castings are so ridiculous. Like, I just saw one, it just came to me, and it was for Legoland, and I was like, oh yeah, cool. And then I looked at it, and it was like, you got to have kids between the ages of 9 and 12, and you have to have 2 kids. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Yeah. So like, your kids have to be perfectly evenly matched. And then I was like, what's crazy about it is they'll find someone.
They'll find someone. Yeah, they'll find someone. Yeah.
And
for the commercial stuff, they cast such wide nets, and you can cast people who are maybe just getting into acting or just dabble in it, or you know, like there's a lot. You can cast a pretty wide net with commercials, so I can see how they can get a little bit specific with that. But like you're casting for the lead in a series, or like you know, or you know, a really complex role in a film. Like there's not a lot of people that can do some of these roles, you know, and you're gonna be put that specific of a breakdown out. Like good luck casting that, you know, like. You're either going to cast someone that's mediocre, or you're gonna make it really hard on the producers or whoever is financing this thing. And then maybe the next time they're looking to finance something, they're going to be like, well, we don't want to finance this thing with ethnic characters because it's a pain in the ass to cast. We can't find the right actors. Well, maybe if you didn't make the casting breakdown so darn specific, consider
Right.
people that look like they can play the role, then maybe more projects like this would be made. I don't know.
Have you ever seen the casting come back up where they loosened the rules?
You know, I have seen that here and there where they went out with a super specific breakdown and looking for someone that, you know, was this very like, you know, village in Morocco must be from this region. And it's like, okay, whatever, good luck with that. And then, you know, a month or two later, you'll see it again. Like, hey, anyone that is can look like they could play this. And that's like, okay, here we go.
Usually I see the one where it was initially offered at $125 for 12, and now it's 150 for 12. Like, oh, maybe we'll get somebody better.
At
like
$20. All right.
So what do you think? What do you think of that? What do you think of, like, do you just breeze past those? I know you're a SAG actor. Do you have to? You can only take union projects. You're SAG total, not SAG-y? SAG full?
Yeah, SAG. I'm full SAG. I have not gone FICOR, as they say.
Right.
Yeah, I've been SAG for many years. I think, gosh, almost 20 years.
Really? What
Maybe
was
not 20, like 15 years.
Okay, so it wasn't True Blood that got you SAG. You were SAG prior to
No. Oh my gosh, the SAG story, how I got SAG is crazy. I mean, everyone I know that, at least back then, how they got SAG, it's always been some kind of crazy, unique thing. So I was in LA doing my thing, and you know, went to acting school, doing my short films and auditions and networking and theater stuff, and then you know, doing extra work. I was like, I'll get my vouchers. If you got three, people who don't know, if you get three vouchers that are SAG, when you're a non-union person, then you can join SAG through that. So what I was doing was, as an actor, I did extra work when I was at very early stages on different types of sets, so I could learn those sets. So when I did book a role on those sets as a principal actor, I wouldn't be shocked by the sets, you know, situation.
Right.
You know, the sitcoms are very different from single camera, you know, drama or whatever. They're very different vibes, different the way the cameras work. So I would be an extra, but I wouldn't just be sitting there, you know, eating my crafty. I would be there paying attention, taking notes. Okay, well, this guy does that, and oh, this person does that, and that's the person to talk to if I have an issue. Okay, and I just really paid attention to the different types of sets, and what to do on them, and how to behave on them, and how do the actors, oh, I see how those actors are preparing over there, and oh, sitcom is kind of like a theater thing, but they reset, and so, and then there was some random student film, not student, there was a competition, so Volkswagen was doing a competition for filmmakers to submit in commercials. And there was a film school. I can't remember which one it was. But I got booked on this. You know, they were like, hey, we're going to submit a video. We wrote this commercial, and I was like, cool, yeah, let's do it. I didn't get paid anything for it. I just did it for fun. And we shot this silly commercial for Volkswagen, and they submitted it. And we were one of the 3 out of the tens of thousands that submitted that won. And this commercial that I had done like 2 years prior got selected and was a national commercial.
And that you got SAG from that?
I got Taft-Hartley SAG from that.
Wow, that is a crazy story.
Crazy. Like out of nowhere, I get this email like, hey, a commercial got selected, and I'm the Volkswagen, the ad agency that was running it was like, hitting me up about the paperwork, and I was like, holy crap. And it was like pretty nice payday out of nowhere. It was like, wow.
Yeah, because if you got SAG for it, it would have made it a union job, right? To bring it up to that. Wow, that's pretty crazy. Because I do a lot of commercials, and there's always like you have to do something like Chevron you have to do something huge, like to get that.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was out of nowhere.
And then, so tell us about from there. I want to talk about True Blood. Tell us about your experience on that. How did you come to do that? So at that point, you're SAG. You're submitting for only SAG projects
Yeah,
because
only SAG projects. I mean, you know what? I think when you're SAG eligible for a bit, which is a sidebar. It was the second time I got SAG eligible, but the first time I didn't. I had worked in Miami and I had got this. It was the first time I was on a Hollywood set. It was Bad Boys 2, and I had was doing extra work. My girlfriend and I at the time we thought, hey, let's just do this for fun. We weren't even like into that or whatever. We just wouldn't, and we were doing extra work in this club scene. They needed like hundreds of extras, so people just kind of cattle called and went, and we got selected as some of the couple hundred for this club scene. And then I remember this so clearly. Michael Bay comes into the extras holding, and he goes through and he's like looking around, and he selects like 12 of the extras, and myself and my girlfriend were one of these 12 that got selected to be in this kind of featured scene, right? There's like water room with water dripping. I don't know if you remember the movie at all. And then in that scene, he comes into the scene and he selects me to give me a line to say, because this principal actor has an OD. So I get given a line in Bad Boys 2. It ended up on the cutting room floor. It didn't make the movie or anything. But I had to fill out paperwork for stuff, because once you're given a line, I mean, that's you're bumped up there at that point. I was like, oh, cool, this is neat, but you have to, like, afterwards, you have to follow the paper trail and, like, go to SAG and file and, like, all this stuff. I didn't know about any of that shit. I didn't know about any stuff. I was so oblivious to any of it. Didn't know about SAGs or unions, nothing back then. And I didn't ever follow up on it. So years later, I was like, oh, I'm in LA. I should join SAG. Oh, yeah, I remember this thing I did. And I couldn't find the paperwork. I tried to find the company, but they created a company just to make the movie, and then they dissolved the company. So there's no way to follow up on it. It was a thing. So I actually got into SAG twice.
That's a pretty wild, that's like every extra's dream, right? Like, yes. I'm going to be there among hundreds of people. Yeah. You're going to get spotted, and then they're going to bring you over and give you a line. Just for those watching, that does not happen. Normally, that's like a really rare item.
Yeah. You want to hear even a crazier story from that Bad Boys 2?
Yeah, let's hear it. Yeah.
I got tons of stories, man. I got a lot of stories. So there was this, I remember at the time, there was this girl. She was with her mom at the, it was the only extra that had like her mom with her, and it was like kind of, I was like, why does she have her mom there? And and
don't bring your wife, don't bring your mom, don't bring your boyfriend, right?
Well, it turns out she was under 18. That's why her mom.
Oh, she had a chaperone. Okay.
But she didn't look like she was under 18. Let me tell you that. Right. She was smoking. I mean, I was like, wow, that's okay. Wow. I was just kind of like, whoa. And
sure.
Even my girlfriend at the time, she's like, that girl's hot. She's going to be smoking when she's older. Anyway, she ended up in the water scene with us as well. And, and we're just like, okay. Years later, we chit-chatted with her a little bit. We didn't really like hang out with her, but we were like, oh, cool, yeah. Years later, turns out this person that was with her mom on the set of Bad Boys 2, Megan Fox. It was Megan Fox.
That's insane.
Insane. It was insane.
I guess, right? You never know. In
you
Hollywood.
Never know.
I mean,
it was,
wow.
It was Megan Fox. We found it. Later on, we had, we texted each other because we had broken up by then, but it was years later. I'm like, is that because she had starred in Transformers?
She was in Transformers
with Michael Bay directing. It's possible that that's where he discovered her and remembered her. I don't know the details. I know that she, there's some interview I saw her do where she mentioned something about Bad Boys 2. But yeah, I was like, oh my God, is that the girl from Bad Boys 2 set? It was nuts. So it was crazy.
I've never heard of that, like, ever. But I guess everybody starts somewhere. I mean, I've been extras and stuff. I mean, I guess everybody's, but to go from extra to Megan Fox is pretty
I don't know
insane.
if that's the trajectory. I'm not sure. I'm just speculating at this point.
Right. No, I'm saying it is. That's exactly what happened. There was nothing. So how do you come to be on True Blood?
Yeah, so True Blood was an interesting thing. I had I think a manager or an agent at a time submitted me for a commercial for True. So True Blood was not on air yet. They were doing commercials prior to the premiere of the actual show, and they were looking for vampire characters for these they had like 2 or 3 little mini commercials that they were putting out there, and I got cast in one of the commercials as a vampire, as a French vampire, and you can still find the commercial somewhere on YouTube. The commercials came out really well, and the commercials were written by the show creator, Alan Ball, and he really liked how they came out, and he really liked the vampire characters. So what he did was bring myself and the other guy in one of the other spots, who he really liked what we had done with the vampire characters, and brought us onto one of the episodes in the show that they were still shooting, like the later episodes of that season, of the first season. So I was in the group of vampires. Did you watch the show?
No, because my wife watched the show, but I don't usually watch terrible television.
Yeah.
I'm just playing, dude.
I watched the first couple seasons, I'll admit, but then I kind of fell off of it. But,
dude, once they started making out, they lost me, bro. Like, I was like, why is Rogue making out with everyone? I can't watch this show.
So there's a scene where one of the main characters it's the scene where she's made into a vampire. Her name, I think the character's name is Jessica. She's the redhead. The scene where she's made into a vampire. I was in that scene, together. Yeah, again, it was like, they experimented a little, worked with us a little bit of lines, a little bit of action here and there. But, again, none of that stuff ended up in the final edit because it wasn't really planned. Because Alan Ball's like, hey, here, take these 2 vampires and stick them in the scene where you can. They did here and there. But, yeah, that was my True Blood experience. It was pretty cool.
What do you think of when you've done these major projects and then you end up on the cutting room floor?
It's part of the game, man. When you're doing, especially when you get when it's a smaller role or a one-liner or these kind of things, or things like given a line in the moment. Now having been on the other side, having been a filmmaker, director, producer, and understanding the process, and these guys they're creatives, and in the moment they have this creative idea, and especially back then, the budgets were a little extra. They could roll a little bit longer if they wanted, and they had an inspiration for an idea. Hey, let's explore that for a minute. Hey, what if we did this? In the moment, things happen, and I get that, and that's cool. But sometimes it doesn't mesh in the edit.
Right. have you ever walked away from a set knowing, oh, there's no way I'm making the film? Like, I've walked off sets knowing they shot it just because I showed up that day. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
the True Blood thing, I knew I wasn't gonna anything that I said on camera, because it was I felt forced. It felt like they were, forcing this thing.
That's what I'm saying, right? You can feel it.
Yeah. I was like, okay, you could see my face for a minute, and not a minute, for like a quick pass, like, oh yeah, there's that, and I'm like, there's one scene where 2 vampires are making out, because I don't know.
That's why I stopped watching the show, right? Everyone's making out all the time.
It's gratuitous vampire,
Right. It's so funny that you said that, because True Blood now, if it was to be on a streaming service, like if they would have produced this show today, it would go straight to a Netflix or HBO Max or whatever, and it would be scrutinized down to the dollar, to the viewer. Like, you're right, they couldn't do stuff like that today.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about, you are a vegan. I read that you're full vegan. What are you?
Full blown vegan.
Now, I met you in person, man. You're like a hot dude. So like, what do you think of when people say, oh, you have to have animal proteins? Like, you have to.
I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to say every single human being on planet Earth can 100% survive on a fully plant-based vegan diet. So I'm not going to make these kind of claims like some vegans do, but I don't think that you need animal protein. Where do you think the animals get their protein? Where do gorillas get their protein? Horses. I mean, they eat plants. That's where it starts. Horses are massive. You don't see them chowing down on chickens. They don't go into the barn and chicken.
Right. The horse doesn't eat any of the other animals that are there. Right.
Yeah, you know, and they're huge and muscular. So it's
Right.
you get those building blocks, and there and people say, oh, well, you can't get all those amino acids from one single you know, plant source. Well, then you combine the plant sources. You know, you combine a couple of different plant sources, and you got everything you need. You know, you have some greens with some lentils and some top it off with some hemp seeds. You got a fully fledged little meal there. You know, now there's time. I was the most meat eater you'd ever met in your life. Prior.
Right. Okay. You ate things that normal
Yeah.
people never ate.
Yeah.
Like
I thought vegans were insane. I thought they were crazy.
How have you eaten? Where and how have you eaten zebra?
So I had zebra. I had a zebra. What do you call it? The skewer. It's like a zebra kebab. Had it in Amsterdam in an African restaurant in Amsterdam.
That's unbelievable. Is that where you had kangaroo?
No, kangaroo I had at it was some restaurant, in Miami. I can't remember the name of it. Yeah.
There's a restaurant in Miami that sells kangaroo?
Not anymore. I mean, I don't yeah.
I can't imagine why they're not there anymore.
This is like in the late 90s. I
don't the barbecue dolphin is fantastic. I mean, have you tried that? So you decided you were done eating exotic and you would go straight. I mean, as an actor, I see a lot of guys get lean with eating vegan. You know, me, I really like pizza, so I struggle. But like, so you went from all that to vegan. Tell us, what's your journey on that?
Yeah, the journey. So basically, what happened was my mom got sick with cancer, and it rocks your world when someone you care about. And I was really close with my mom. When someone gets that diagnosis. So me being the knowledge researcher guy that I am, I see a problem, and this is also the engineering training, see a problem, I want to find a solution. So I scoured everything, medical journals, documentaries, dissertations. I dug into the journals, deep into the science of it, because I know how to do that stuff. I'm not some dude who read a couple blogs and watched a couple YouTube videos and I'm like, oh, I've got a PhD now. No, I mean, I dug deep into it, and every road I looked into, every single one went towards plant-based diet. How to avoid cancer, how to avoid health issues. My dad had heart issues. My mom's now got this cancer issue. How do I avoid these things from my life? I want to, I had intended at the time to be a dad, and how was I going to be the best for my children? All these kind of things. And every road, every single one, plant-based diet, plant-based diet, plant-based diet. And I was like, wow. And, for me being Mr. meat eating guy, it rocked my world, So I just was I sat with it for a while. And
what happens when you go, and I don't mean to, what happens when you go from meat to plants? Are you fatigued? Like what's the transition like?
Yeah. No, I'll get there. Yeah. So,
okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
My bad.
We ended up losing my mom, unfortunately, but that was the impetus. And then I did have a moment, and here's the irony of the whole thing. I've always been an animal lover, right? We grew up with animals, I had pets, and I just always loved animals. I had booked a project to act in, a lead in an indie film that was slated to shoot it was May of, I believe, 2010. And my mom had passed away in early May 2010. And I had told the filmmaker, I said, look, I'm obviously, dealing with this situation. They're like, look, we can recast you if you want, but if you're willing to still do this project, they happened to be shooting in Kansas, which was not far from St. Louis, where I was at with my family. And I was like, you know what? It's actually going to be healthy for me to get out of this pressure cooker of this situation and just escape just into this other world and just get out of it, because it had been 6 months of hospitals and all this stuff and all this crying and trauma, and went to this Kansas shoot. And we were the main lead actors, we were staying on this farm. And I would wake up in the morning and go on a jog. And I remember one morning I jogged by this cow pasture. And mind you, I still got all this information in my head about plant-based and all this stuff, and went on this jog, and this little baby cow comes jogging up next to me, next to the fence. And I was like looking at this cow, and I'm jogging. Look at this little baby cow, and I'm like, wow, that thing's cute. So I stopped, and I just looked at this baby cow through the fence, and we just shared this moment. And then the mom cow comes over, and the mom cow knows her stuff because she knows these humans do bad things to us. And she was very nervous about her little baby being near this human. And she kind of was like, kind of like, come on, all right, you had your moment, like, come on. And the baby cow trots away with the mom, and the baby cow kind of looks back at me. And I was like, oh my God, this is like, they're like a little family. And like, I shared this like loving moment with this baby cow. And it just sounds so cheesy, but it happened. And I was just like, that's it. That's the moment. That is the moment that I decided I cannot eat animals anymore. I'm to be a true animal lover is to not be participant in the torture and brutal deaths of these animals. I just couldn't, so if it started off as a health thing, then it became an animal thing. And then later on, it became an environmental thing. Like, what are we doing to the environment and animal agriculture and the damage it does to the environment and all these things. So, when I did, so some people go cold turkey, they just, hey, I'm going vegan right now. And it's tough to do that. Not only mentally and emotionally, but physiologically, it can be challenging too. So I decided to slowly transition. I went pescatarian. So I stopped eating all land animals. I went pescatarian for about 6 months. Then I went vegetarian, still eating eggs and dairy. And then, but man, was it tough to give up sushi. And then I went full vegan 10 years ago. In January, it was 10 years. And
did you now did you learn how to cook? I mean, in LA, you can find a lot of areas to eat vegan, but not everywhere you can. And probably you can in Miami, but I mean,
I had to learn how to, all that stuff. And when, especially the first 6 months were tough because, I don't know how I make, I was always the guy, can of tuna or a chicken or whatever, like I had to get rid of all that. And you're like, wait, how am I going to get my, so I was very cognizant of the nutrition that I was taking in, and again, researcher. Okay, what I got to make sure I got to balance this out. And I didn't do it. I wasn't perfect. The first 6 to 12 months, I had a couple of moments of weakness where I was like, oh man, we were traveling, and I grabbed it, I ate something. I was like, screw it, it's got eggs in it, whatever. So there's stuff like that happens, or something was off with my body. The first 6 months, something was off. I was like, something's not right. I got real skinny. I lost a lot of muscle tone. I was like, I'm not doing something right. I'm not blaming the vegan diet. It's me I'm not getting a certain nutrient. So I, again, research, read up on it, started tracking my, what am I eating? Am I getting, you have to be real cognizant of it, real conscious. And
how do you do it when you're on set? I mean, crafty has gotten worse since COVID. So,
I know.
Like everything now is packaged. It's all chips. It's all cookies. And how do you? I mean, not that you don't eat chips or cookies. Maybe you don't. But how do you do it when you're there?
I'm a cookie. I love cookies, man. That's my weakness. Cookies, love them. I bring my own stuff, man.
You do. You
bring
prep
my own stuff. I have my backpack. I have make my healthy things. I make a killer vegan gluten-free banana bread. I make that. I make cookies. I'm kind of a vegan baker guy. There's been many requests for a vegan cookbook from me, so that's potentially in the works. So.
And when you're on set, do you walk up to people? Oh, you got to try this. Here, try one of these. I made this. Are you that guy?
Sometimes there was a theater I did in the summer of 2019 where the first day of rehearsals, I brought in some vegan, gluten-free cupcakes for everyone.
Rad. So do you also do you grow food too? Like, I know in LA there's not a whole lot of area to do stuff, but do you do that? Like, are you curating some plants and things you're growing your own rosemary or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, growing herbs is something that I've done for a while. But during the pandemic, the kids and I've got 2 kids. We did do a garden project where we had this planter and we grew a bunch of stuff, and it was really exciting. We grew carrots. We grew what else did we grow? We grew some sunflowers that we harvested the sunflower seeds from.
Wow.
bunch of greens, bunch of really cool greens, like kale and there were some exotic ones. I can't remember them off the top of my head right now. Like tatsoi we grew.
So in little pots, or like you got like a big thing on your porch? Like how are you doing it in
In
LA?
our very small little patch of grass backyard, there was like a planter that had like these just random plants in there, and our project was digging that whole thing out. We pulled out all those other plants, had to dig out all that like soil that was kind of dead, and then I created this multi-layer kind of compost with healthier soil, and then compost healthier. I created this kind of like really rich soil there for the food to grow in.
So you researched also how to do the right properly.
Yeah.
You engineered a garden. You mentioned having a backpack. I take a backpack. What have you learned you need to bring to set? What have what's in your what have you learned?
So I bring actually my own animal friendly vegan makeup, just in case they don't have that there, because I don't want to be using the makeup that I don't believe in. I know it sounds a little pretentious, but if you're going to do this thing, do it all the way. I bring just all those like kind of men's grooming things, just in case. I don't know what they need, what they don't need. I have extra change of clothes, extra pair of shoes, just to have.
How much water do you bring when you show up?
I usually have some kind of water with me. A water. I refuse to use plastic water bottles. I'm very anti-plastic. Yeah, very anti-plastic. Like I'm like, don't even bring me those. I'm like, I have my water thing. Fill it up. I don't care how you fill it up.
It must kill you now. Everything is packaged, and the water bottles, all these little tiny ass ones, and it kills.
Like, what are we doing? Are we not paying attention? It's like there's like a freaking garbage patch in the Pacific that's the size of France, and like what are they doing? It's like, like what are we doing? It's bananas.
It's pretty unreal. Yeah.
Yeah. So water, all sorts of vegan little snacks and these kind of things I have with me. I have a notebook. I'll have a couple of acting books usually. I have Larry Moss's book. I have Ivana Chubbuck's book. And
I have that one.
D.W. Brown's book. So
you're prepared for the downtime also.
Yes, prepared for the downtime. And obviously the scripts and whatever. So, but I have other things. And sometimes there could be something that comes up. They're like, or you get to set and they're like, hey, we're not shooting that scene that you prepped for today. We're shooting the other scene. And maybe that scene's got something that I didn't really work on or have never worked on as an actor really. So that's why I have the acting books in there. So sometimes there's like little quick, Ivana Chubbuck's got those, if you want to, act like a certain thing, you can quickly like, cheat sheet note how to do that, and kind of work on that. Yeah.
What happens when they always do when I get to set and they go, all right, we're shooting scene 12, and you go, okay, and then they go, oh, did you bring your white shirt? We're changing to scene 14, and I was like, well, I didn't bring that outfit. I brought this outfit. So I learned to just throw it all in the car.
Yeah, actors have like multi changes of clothes in the car at all times. I mean, I've got like just in case, because back in the when we used to go in person auditions, which is starting to come back, but I could be in Santa Monica and I'm going to this audition and it's maybe it's a commercial and maybe it's athletic wear or something, right? So you're dressed kind of athletic, and then you get a call and you're in town. You're like, hey, I need you in downtown. There's going to be an audition, last minute audition for a lawyer role or whatever. You're like, well, I need a suit. I don't have time to go home and get it. So you either buy something, wear it in the audition and return it, or you have something like that in the car. So I learned to keep like different things in the car at all times.
Have you done that? Have you bought something and returned it?
I have, yeah. I have done that. Yeah.
Man, usually I just go, well, I'm showing up in my shirt, and they're going to have to deal with it, when it's something like that. So I met you at the premiere for Vengeance Turns, which is a movie you have coming out. It's about to hit festivals. Tell us about that.
Are you hearing this delay? We have a delay.
I'm hearing it all of a sudden. Yeah, we're almost finished, but yeah.
Oh man. um, oh my gosh, it's really.
Yeah, all of
Yeah.
a sudden, right? All at the very end, we're losing it, you know. And this is something that happens. I mean, it's not coming back on, huh? But we'll probably have to.
Should we undo it and do it again? But yeah, Vengeance Turns came up during 2020. It was a friend of a friend. It's really hard to have a conversation with this. Oh my gosh.
I can hear you.
You can hear me. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So a friend of friend was involved, and I had worked with him prior, and he was involved in the production at the time, and you know, told Bobby, "Hey, Nevin's perfect for this role. Ghost with Silent Knives protects." And Bobby and I had a call. I was on a road trip with my family at the time. We were up in Tahoe. We were in like NorCal. We were doing all sorts of fun stuff. And then so I jumped in the car one morning to be away from the kids, you know, madness. And Bobby and I had a chat about the role, and we really clicked. We saw eye to eye on it. And he's like, "Hey man, you'd be great for this." And right, you know, I'm like, awesome. I was obviously concerned about COVID protocols because this was 2020 and you know, still, and there was, you know, people were kind of freaking out. So yeah, he told me we're going to do all the protocols, we're going to do all the testing, and make sure everyone's safe. And I'm like, great. And so yeah, that's how the role came about. And from there, Bobby and I had some chats about the character, and he was so open to like ideas about the character that I found to be really great. And, we shot this thing in 2020 during a global pandemic, and it was incredible. You know, I mean, the ambition of Bobby and them to try to shoot this period piece, Western, minimal budget. I mean, it's pretty incredible for them.
Are you in part 2 as well, or are you
Yeah.
just in
So
part...
basically, I think he had intended it for to be just one, but we shot so much, and it's, you know, came out so well that he split it into 2. So I'm in part 1 a little bit, I think, or maybe not. I'm not sure. I don't know exactly where it cut. Maybe I'm not in part 1. Maybe I'm just in part 2. I can't remember. I think I am. Yeah, I think the tail end of part 1 and then part 2. I think that's how it is.
Didn't you just watch it? We were
yeah,
at the premiere.
I watched part 2. I'm thinking back now because
right. Where did it?
Just one script at the time, one big script. Yeah, no, the part 2 starts at a certain point. Yeah, so I would be at the end of part 1. Yeah.
Right. It's like episode 4 and 5, and they kind of connect. And I'm doing that obviously as a Star Wars reference. So what else do you have coming up? I mean, Vengeance Turns is going to hit festivals, and people can go see that, which is going to be exciting. What else do you have coming up? Tell us.
So I'm going to be speaking at Comic-Con on a panel next month, which is cool.
Man, I'll be there.
Will you really?
Yeah, I will. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll send you my. I'll be posting about it before. I'm not allowed to post publicly yet until they 100% confirm the time. But
yeah, I can't post about why I'm there, but I feel you.
yeah, no. Yeah, so I'll be there on a panel speaking about how sci-fi informs and affects STEAM learning. So that's science, technology, engineering, art, and math. And so it'll be a pretty cool panel. We'll be talking about cool stuff. The guy who's running the panel is the showrunner for Xena Warrior Princess.
Oh, really? Okay, so so that's the tie-in.
Yeah. So there's a lot of cool people on the panel. There's a guy that's like a Star Trek expert, and some professors. It'll be cool.
I thought you said there were cool people on the panel. You said a Star Trek expert. What the heck? That's it.
Hey man, I'm in both. I'm a Star Wars geek and a Star Trek geek.
Yeah, I cannot hack experts. I literally know toys better than other people. Like I can't hack experts. So the Comic-Con panel, the movie, was there more coming out?
So as far
the
as
cookbook,
film related stuff, I'm in that phase right now where I'm doing a lot. I'm pitching some projects of my own, so trying to get some financing for a few things. So yeah, got to stay tuned.
How important is that to you think that an actor creates their own? You list yourself not as actor, not as musician, but you call yourself storyteller.
Yes, that was a whole kind of an identity thing for me, because I was like, as an actor, you're an actor. But then you find sometimes if you tell people, oh, I'm an actor, I'm a writer, I'm a producer, there was at some point kind of a stigma. Well, why aren't you just an actor? Why aren't you just a producer? And I had gone to a producers conference, and I had spoken to I had a chance to speak to man, now his name is leaving me. Horror director.
Eli Roth.
Yes, Eli Roth. Nice. He did a panel, and afterwards, I got a chance to chit chat with him, just meet him for a few minutes. And I was like, "Hey, man, how do you handle the being a director, but you're also you write and you act now too? There's naysayers about that." He's like, man, don't worry about anything. Do what you got. Do you do you? You do the thing. Don't worry about any of those people, what they say or what they think you should do or don't do. Don't worry about it. You do you. Like, cool. Good lesson. I learned that a lot. And I never forgot that. So as I was kind of putting on these producer hats and putting on these writer hats and then more recently a director hat, I'm like, what is this? What is the through line through all of those? It's storytelling. Actors are storytellers.
Through line is such an actor term, right? What's the through line?
What's the through line? Producers are storytellers. We all tell this story. I mean, the crafty person is a storyteller, part of the team, man. We're all part of this storytelling team. That we're putting this story forward for humanity to learn something and to then propagate culture forward to the next generation. It's a duty and it's an honor, it's a privilege, and it's a calling for all that are in this.
Man, I love it. Where can the people find you if they want to, when they want to book you for their SAG project, their amazing new thing, or they want to see what you're doing? Where can they find you?
Yeah, I'm all over the internet. I'm on my website, nevinmillan.com, has links to all my socials at Nevin Millan on Instagram, and Millan on Twitter, Nevin Millan Official on Facebook. And then I do want to mention one thing. I did start a nonprofit that supports ethnically diverse playwrights. It's called Cultural Cornucopia. We are just getting it off the ground. We just finally got our 501c3 government, which is the nonprofit official government qualification. So we're going to be doing a playwrights lab because how do you get diversity out there? You got to write the projects. So how do we figured out theater and is one of those ones that's very much difficult to break into, more so than film. I believe it's very ancestral in a way that's, I believe, unhealthy. So we decided to create a lab that can be specifically for ethnically diverse playwrights that have not been produced, that are looking to get a project made. They've written at least a couple of plays, and we're going to be creating labs for them to be mentored and move their project to the next level.
That's fantastic, man. That's great. That like you said, you gotta make it happen.
You got to make it happen, especially for those people for not just ethnically diverse, but any diverse category. You got to do it.
If there's an actor watching the show, what's your words for somebody? If there's an actor watching the show, there might be one. What's your words for an aspiring actor? What's your big your advice?
The advice is don't worry about the fame. Don't worry about your social posting. Don't worry about any of this PR stuff. Get good at acting. Study acting. Read plays. Download sides from online and work them with other actors. That's the work. It's that moment. It's the actual acting work. That's what matters. All this other stuff is BS. That stuff does not matter. It maybe has a little bit of an effect, but it doesn't matter if you get into the room and you can't act. It's about the acting.
100%. That's true.
I mean?
If you can get in the room, if you want to chase fame, go make a TikTok. You want to act, learn how to act.
Yeah, don't worry about trimming your eyebrows, man. Like go and learn how to act and be good at acting and always be learning. Always be learning. Like experienced, seasoned actors still go to classes. They still read acting books. They still go read plays. Inform yourself as an artist. Go to museums. Go on trips. build a rich life that will inform yourself as an artist, that you can tell those stories better. You know, forget about all the other bullshit.
That's fantastic. Nevin, man, it has been great to talk to you. I would hope we get to do it again, man. We should
Yeah, let's do it again.
we should hang out. We should hang out more. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like totally. I want to thank producer Warren Madden for making it happen. I know we had to jump through some hoops to get Nevin on. He had to go through a lot. A lot of you guys don't always do Facebook. Want to see the rest of our episodes? Coffee Breaks Thursdays with Jason Zalakis. Nevin, thank you again.
Thank you
guys. We'll see you next week. Coffee Breaks Thursdays with Jason Zalakis.
Cheers.